Last issue saw the introduction of future Superman, but who is the Justice League of Tomorrow? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an irate review where I talk about a comic book, and I'm going to be talking about Justice League number 20. So after Justice League number 19, where we saw the introduction of future Superman, as well as the Justice League of Tomorrow and the various characters inside the Sixth Dimension, we are going to dive deep into that rabbit hole and see what kind of chaos is going to unfold for our superhero team. Justice League of Tomorrow looks to be a really interesting set of character designs that need a lot of explanation, so hopefully we get it in this issue, but let's find out. In Justice League number 19, Scott Snyder reinforced the concept of dimensions inside the DC universe as he created this multi-layered cosmic cake of chaos that he's been toying with ever since DC's Dark Knight's Metal. So with somebody like the fifth-dimensional imp Mxyzptlk, or possibly Bat-mite, we have a sixth dimension that is only accessible to the greatest beings in all of creation, or the creators of actual creation itself. People like the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, the World Forger, and Perpetua, who created this current DC universe. But in Justice League number 19, we also got the debut of the Justice League of Tomorrow, which includes future Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, and a variety of other characters, and that's where we start off in Justice League number 20. We actually get introduced to the House of Justice, essentially a museum under the banner of a unified justice symbol, which has been seen on both the doorknobs, the symbols within the Hall of Justice and the Legion of Doom. And John Jones's first connection, his first question, is to ask, how do they complete this, even though he stands before an older version of himself and Hawkgirl and their young son. And while everybody's in awe of this, Batman is the first person to ask the questions that everybody wants to know, which is, how do we achieve this kind of outcome? And while they promise plans, this future Justice League, this Justice League of Tomorrow, is more concerned about convincing the current members that this is the path that they must take, because remember, this is still a concept that is far-flung in the future. There are actions that need to be taken in order for these things to happen, and the point Superman is trying to make is that we need to speed up the process so that way you can get to the end game much faster. And as we kind of peruse these various different characters, he gives us a rundown of what actually happened. So Perpetua created this dark universe from these unnatural forces like the Still Force and the Ultraviolet Range and all that. However, she was betrayed by her sons, the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and the World Forger, who informed these other great celestial beings of the Omniverse of her plans, and now she is attempting to be resurrected. Lex Luthor is trying to do such a thing so that way she can poison the current multiverse and send it directly back to the forces of creation. That way she can destroy the others that imprisoned her in the Source Wall. We get a flashback to Batman, who's currently running around chasing Deathstroke across the rooftops, but he has to call in a Robin, a specific Robin, and that's Jarro? The new Robin, who is absolutely Batman's favoritist Robin ever, and he means ever, which is a really fun kind of dreamlike state that they put Jarro in, and it's a really interesting perspective on the whole Robin concept. You know, Jarro dreams of being Batman's best buddy, but Mara and Starman need a little bit better solution because Mxyzptlk is getting some sort of telepathic communication. What Mxyzptlk needs to do is he needs to sever that line before they can turn back. So the nature of the Justice League of Tomorrow is already suspect. When we jump back, we actually see Black Hawk Island, and it has now become a spaceport that allows travel to every single planet that they possibly can. The older versions of Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter and their young son look over the younger versions of themselves and explain to them what their roles really are. John is the shepherd that's going to unite everyone and tell them the truths or hide from them the things that they don't necessarily need to see. Kendra is the messenger. She is going to be relaying the truth and help reveal these various mysteries. And once they're linked in their mission, they are going to be able to achieve the greatest things that they possibly can. And this is as they stare off into the distance, noticing an actual ship full of Martians, repopulated Martians, headed towards Mars, so that way it can become a much greater version of itself. And you see Martian Manhunter look out over this scene with such great adoration for what they could possibly achieve. Over at Star Labs, we actually have the Flash as well as the White Lantern version of John Stewart talking to their younger selves and dealing with the repopulation, the customization, the actual expansion of the multiverse after their successes. And this isn't just any other Flash. This appears to be a combination of Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, and Wally West, all combining into some sort of ultimate or hyper Flash. They talk about how they've actually collapsed hypertime, which allows them to move forward and backward without any other kind of consequences, which is a pretty insane concept since the Flash is always dealing with the ramifications of time travel, and that's one of the central themes of the character. But they're not the only ones dealing with their future selves. Diana's off in Themyscira, which is now no longer veiled from the rest of the world, and it seems like some of the worst battles of the Justice Wars were fought right there on Themyscira itself. And as they rebuilt it, Diana put together a team of new Amazons and created actually a universal language based on the oldest of runes so that way she could keep records and pass the light on to others. So that gives us an indication that possibly older Diana was impacted by magic in some way that is going to cause her to age much more rapidly. We don't know how far out into the future this six-dimensional world is, but there are things at hand that couldn't be explained without magical means, because she shouldn't be aging the way that she is. Of course, we do have to talk about Batman, because Batman finds himself in a Gotham much more reminiscent of a marble metropolis. I mean, this is a white, golden beacon of shining hope with Wayne splattered all over the place, a giant tower, a monument dedicated to Batman himself. It's the dream that he's been working for, and the thank you doesn't come from Batman. It comes from Dick Grayson, the new Batman. And what Batman wants to know as he looks out upon this expanse is one simple thing. Where the hell are all the villains? And that leads to an unraveling of this concept by a number of the members of the Justice League. We see that Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter are dealing with the ramifications of the relationship that they don't even really have. They shared a kiss inside a dream, inside their minds at some point in time, as the universe was about to explode. One of the biggest things that John has struggled with is the fact that he hasn't told the world the truth about what's happening, about the universe dying, the fact of the totality and everything that they've experienced so far. Hiding it from them feels wrong. But one thing is that the young son of those two characters is going to reveal to them something that we're probably not going to see until issue 21, 22, 23. This vision that he gives them is so startling that we just don't get to experience it. And Mxyzptlk just explodes out of the cage of energy that he's created for himself, and Luthor and Brainiac are observing the entire thing. The power of Mxyzptlk can't be explained, it can't be quantified, but they have a box which happens to have the symbol of Bat-mite on it, and they are possibly going to have a fifth-dimensional imp of their own. And at that point in time, we finally get back to Superman, because he's been missing in this entire equation. They assume that the Superman that they see is one that is explored thousands, millions, billions of different options in order to find this best one. But in reality, he's trying to escape this darkness, this dimension created simply for him, and that it's robbed him of his powers. And the more that he exerts himself, the easier it is for him to fail. He falls shorter and shorter, the rut that he finds himself in deeper and deeper, until finally we get the appearance of this glowing white visage, which is the Superman of the future. And it seems like his actions are nefarious. But that sets us up, the face-to-face Superman versus Superman from the future, and what that means for the entire concept. Is this a situation that involves some sort of time travel, some sort of villain, some sort of imposter? There's a lot of different questions here, and while we did get a bunch of answers regarding future Superman as well as the Justice League of Tomorrow, Scott Snyder leaves us with more questions than we have answers, which is going to lead us into Justice League 22, 23, 24, and 25, which is going to be the story inside the sixth dimension. As we look at Jorge Jimenez's art, the art style is still fantastic, and overall the renditions of the characters, particularly Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, the Batman of the future, and the style along the Superman of the future, it just looks amazing. You can tell that he's been investing a lot of time in the art so that way this arc stands out, because it seems to be playing a pivotal point in the journey of the Justice League so far. And Scott Snyder, of course, he is not light on words and explanation, but he's adding layers upon layers upon layers that have yet to be fulfilled, and he's setting things up for the future, but we don't necessarily know how they're going to finish, or when they're going to finish, if they're going to finish at all. And when you compare this to the rest of the DC universe, you can tell that this is moving towards a culmination or some sort of crescendo moment that is going to really impact a whole heck of a lot of things. However, we don't necessarily know enough about it to draw a conclusion, but I want to know what you guys think about Justice League number 20. Overall, it's giving us a lot more information, but it's leaving us wanting more and asking more questions. So hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what you guys think. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books and more.